Salutations and shit, folks. Welcome to another episode of your new favorite travel podcast, Travel and Shit, where I, your host, have more of an experiential conversation where we discuss why we did it, what we learned, what was experienced from travel versus more of the where I went, the destination, and how I did it. That's all fun and good and all. However, I feel like there's so much more to be gained from travel if you just open your eyes and open your minds. So, merch, we got gators. These are called gators, guys. I didn't know. I mean, I figured everything's got a name. Didn't know that that's what these things were called. We got gators. Gators, if you're listening on the podcast, is the face covering that you basically, it's a turtleneck without the turtle. You know what I mean? It's just not the actual shirt. It's just the thing that goes over your head. My Nana always likes to tell me to cover your chest up, close up your neck. So the gator is perfect for this cold weather. Goes right up on the nose, especially good for those of us that lose things. So those are they're up on the site. Obviously hoodies. Yeah, happy Kwanzaa. I hope y'all had a great Christmas. I hope everybody was able to find the joy in the holidays where they can. I've had it was a touch and go Christmas. But special shout out to my mama. See you, girl. Christmas came through because of you. So thank you for that. And I am going to jump right into the last mention that if you, however, are looking to spend your Christmas money on a trip, but you're not quite sure how to book it or how to plan your excursions, your Travel and Shit podcast host, D. Carey, me. I have a free solo planning travel course, but it also happens to work out if you're going with your shorty, you're going with your homies, you're going with your family, you're going with people in between. The steps that I take to plan all of my trips have been documented and pulled together in a free download that helps you understand the steps that I take so that I can make sure that every trip is as enjoyable as possible for me, depending on the things that are important to me at the time that I take the trip. So that is also available on the Travel and Shit shop. You can access that from the link in my bio on any of my social media or just by going to travelandshitpodcast.com and downloading your free copy. It'll absolutely give you the little alley-oop that you may need or help boost the confidence that you are lacking. It's free. Give it a shout. See if it helps. And if it may not be something for you, maybe somebody in your family or one of your friends or somebody is looking to, book a trip and they're just not really sure what T's to cross and I's to dot. I got you covered. So there is that on that end of the announcements and shit or whatever. I got a guest. Hey, oh, come on, guest. The final episode of the year also. And I think, you know what? It's actually very fitting that this is your episode because you, my good friend, are the half of the reason why I decided to travel. Between you and Anissa, the two of you, gorgeous Black women on the internet, really gave me that push and that representation that I didn't see anywhere else. Like I saw the two of you doing it and I was just like, okay, I see myself in them.
Yeah.
Not just in how we look, but in how we sound, how we approach things, just the way we, boyfriend always has, there's a way to it. Like, yeah. And it things clicked. And between you and Anissa, no, you can do it. You'll be fine. And you can do it yourself without a travel agent. Because sometimes we get further along in life and we learn things and then forget where we started. And I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to say thank you specifically to you, Marissa, and let you know that I oh, wow. Oh, work email just popped through. Whew, thank you. Saw that in the little thing.
Close that out.
Girl. But thank you, Marissa, because between you and Anissa, I saw myself and I saw that it was possible for me to see the world on my terms. I didn't know that I didn't need a travel agent to book my travel for me because I ain't know shit. The furthest I'd gone was probably like Miami. You know what I mean? Like I hadn't left the country. And I just didn't know what I didn't know. But seeing you women out here fearlessly taking on the world, I'm like, I'm about it. I got it. I could do this. And I had me a little couple extra dollars. And I was like, faggot, we out here.
Let's do it.
So I want to specifically tell you thank you.
You are most welcome. Most welcome.
So please, guest, introduce yourself.
Yes. Peace, everyone. My name is Marissa. I kind of hate doing this because it's like, where do I begin? Mm-hmm. But I'll say that I'm a creative storyteller, ambitious native New Yorker, queen, stand up, although I live in Brooklyn. Yes, I'm a Sag, I'm wild, I'm unabridged, I'm unfiltered, I'm unique, I'm me.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And a good starting place is we met at, I don't know if you remember, I don't know whose event it was.
I do. It was Monroe Steele and I forgot Shorty's name, Miss Sherry Blossom. They had a brands and bloggers event.
Uh-huh.
And I still have that photo of us.
Me, you, and Marsha.
Yep.
That's where I met the two of you. Well, I think I'd known Marsha because her girlfriend at the time is really good. She's a soror and she's really good friends with my line sister, Crystal. So I'd known who Maria was, but I'd never like really met Maria, and I'd heard of Marsha, but I'd never really met Marsha. So I just met you guys at that event. Yep. And
seems like so many years ago, right?
It just really, I was an entirely different person then. You know what I mean?
Same.
And I remember meeting you, and then I remember falling in love with your blog. So is Unicorn in Brooklyn is the name of the blog?
Yeah, so it's been Unicorn in Brooklyn, but I've since shortened it. Like you can find it as Unicorn in BK, but it's still Unicorn in Brooklyn. Yeah.
And I remember like you are such a great writer. And take it from a writer. Like I can absolutely appreciate how it's not superfluous color. You know what I mean? Like you don't color your writing with all of the fantastical shit I don't need, but you give it just enough so that I feel like I'm in the middle of what's there. You know what I mean? That's a good way to put it. Seasoning. You can over season some shit, but when you season it the right fucking way, it should taste
fucking bomb.
And that's exactly what you do with your writing. And we'll actually take a segue about writing soon, but your blog in particular really gave me a feel for, Black women travel. Like I was able to see myself traveling as a traveler because I was able to connect with your voice. And in seeing all of that, I remember like you had also great pictures also. You also take really incredible photos, not just because you're gorgeous, but like a lot of the photos that didn't just include you had photos that had, just the lighting and the coloring, everything. I appreciated the photography that you included with, the stories as well. So kudos to you. Doing the damn thing. And I remember it was your trip to Southeast Asia. I know you were in Thailand. I think you went to Cambodia afterwards.
Yeah, that was my first solo trip. It was Dubai, Thailand, and Cambodia.
Tell me about that trip. What was that like for you? And what was your impetus to actually traveling? Because I don't recall remembering that was your first solo trip either.
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to, first of all, I want to apologize for the sounds of Brooklyn.
I will say, shout out to Brooklyn.
I will mute my mic if I have to. But the first trip was basically this. I mean, I got my passport in my mid-20s. I was going to be a flight attendant.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was going to go with United. They flew me out twice to their headquarters in Chicago. Didn't make the second cut. I guess it wasn't meant to be. But I'm like, hey, I have my passport. Let me tap my girls around me. So I tapped my sister.
Pause. Sorry. Yes. Funny story since you wanted.
Yeah.
My silly ass applied to be a flight attendant also.
Can you imagine us?
My silly ass, and I say silly ass, because and my
What?
daddy was like, "What the fuck was you thinking?" Like I admitted because they have a question on the thing that was like, "Have you ever been are you a late person? Like, have you been late or something like that? Have you ever been two hands? Yes. Have you ever been reprimanded at work?" And so, yeah, that's the only thing I've ever been spoken to, brought into the office on in any job I've ever had was timeliness.
Timeliness. Same,
Bitch ain't
same.
never on time. I am never on time for
That
shit.
was
Like I'm on
back in
time for
the
this
day,
job
though.
now. Right,
Yeah,
exactly. I've
now I would
since
never.
matured. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm grown. I get it now. But
Right.
then the nigga was never on time. And my silly ass put that I'd been late and then reprimanded for lateness on my fucking application.
See,
My
I'm
dad was
mad you
like, "The
put that
fuck
though.
was you thinking?" And I was just like, "Well, I figured if it's like TSA or something as serious as, airplanes that they going to investigate, they're going to find out anyway." And my dad was like, "Nigga, they wasn't going to find out. You should have lied." I
Your
felt like
dad
such
was
a
right
fucking
though,
idiot.
honestly.
Right. But it's a good thing it didn't, because yeah, my ass would have been late all the time. But please continue.
So no, I left off with that. It wasn't meant to be. I came back home and I'm like, all right, well, I have my passport now. Who can roll with me? So that being said, I went with my sister, my cousin. I didn't go with them, but I basically prompted them to get their passports, and then I wound up making. I think I planned our first trip to Jamaica. Had a great time. Did the all inclusive experience. After that, it was like, all right, where's our next trip? We went to DR. Had a great time. Then I was like, all right, let me go ahead and tap into seeing where else I could go. I was having a stressful day at work. I hollered at my ex, who owns property in Jamaica, and he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna fly you out. Bring your home girl." We get to Jamaica at his spot, real off the beaten path. Flew into Kingston, and that was the beginning of having an experience that was not touristy. It was
Mm.
like, okay, I am away from all tourism. I'm in country, but we're having little sprinklings of like interacting with tourists. And I was new to Instagram, and one of my sister's girlfriends, she found I think some of my posts, and she was like, "Hey, you ever heard of Nomadness Travel Tribe?" And I'm like,
Mm.
"Yo, no, what is that?" She put me on to them. I found that travel group, and then I was like, "Wait, people are really out here doing it big, and they're doing off the beaten path travel." That was the impetus. It was like, I want this. I don't want any more all inclusive experiences. I want to be away from all of that. And that was the beginning of me saying, "How can I go get it?" And that's what led me to my first solo trip.
Now, question for you. What were your I guess thoughts, or what were your beliefs on affordability of travel? Because I know when I looked at travel, I'd only seen like luxury travel until,
Yeah,
of course, social media
yeah,
gave me the opportunity to see accounts like yourself and Nomadness. And the off the beaten path is not necessarily anything exuberant or anything crazy. It's just, to me, when I think of it as just not luxury travel. Like you were
yeah,
saying, not all inclusives.
yeah.
Because before, that's all that I'd really seen. I'd seen people going to the same islands, like to Jamaica, US Virgin Islands,
Are
Trinidad. Like I'd seen people going to, beautiful destinations. Don't get me wrong. I want to see, there's nothing in the world I don't want to see. So at some point I intend to hit those islands as well. However, I just never, and I don't want to say this with a condescending air to it or a sound or anything, but I also just don't really want to go where everybody else wants to go. You know what I mean?
word,
Because
word.
it's not that there's anything unappealing necessarily about Miami. Let's just go with Miami or Atlanta. It's just that if I want to go, I'm not a crowds person. I don't like crowds in my regular life. I don't enjoy going to heavily densely populated, places in general. So if I go someplace, I kind of want that to extend through my vacation. I would like to be able to go someplace where I feel as if I would just be kind of plopped in the middle of a community and not necessarily a bunch of other tourists, if you will. Now, there are some aspects to being around other tourists that we've learned along our journeys is
Yeah,
actually beneficial, but I didn't necessarily want to go to a densely Tory or tourist populated location. So in my mind, that meant like I didn't even know that that really was a thing because all I saw were all inclusives. And I'm looking at all this stuff and I'm just like, between that, the flight, and then getting around, it's just like, I don't have the money for this. I can't afford this. I got regular ass, people job money. Like I thought that I couldn't do it. My limiting beliefs kind of kept me in New York. It kept me in
Yeah.
the United States because I knew I could afford a flight to go to Virginia because
Yeah.
then I'm going to stay at my cousin's house. I knew I could afford a flight to New Orleans because I'm going to stay at my homegirl's house and I'm going to have a great ass Mardi Gras time because that, say, when I tell you Mardi Gras prices be wild,
I heard
if
they're crazy.
I knew that I just had to pay for the flight.
Okay.
So if I booked it soon enough, I would be there and I would have some place to stay. And hey, Angie, love you, girl. I would have some place to stay. You know what I mean? Like I, pay for food or help her, give her money for groceries, but she ain't gonna take my money. You know what I mean? She got
Yeah,
food in
that's
the house.
family.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna make a ham sandwich though. You know what I mean? But stuff like that.
Right.
I only thought I thought that was my only option. I thought that's what was available to me. What were your thoughts on affordability on travel, or what type of access did you think you had before I guess social media came into view? Like what was your representation of travel? Did you have family and friends that traveled? Did they only do all-inclusive traveling? What was your, I guess, foundation of travel?
Sure, sure. So I can honestly say I didn't really have a lot of relatives that traveled to like exotic places that I knew of. If I did, they were like far removed. It's getting hella dark in here, so I may have to get
I
up.
can still see you. It's
Okay,
fine.
cool. I had some cousins and like aunts, and like in the distance, but nobody that I spoke to on a regular basis. And so for me, I was like, well, what can I do? I want to go to Thailand. I said, I'm gonna go really extreme. Where do I have relatives? I had a cousin in Thailand. And so I knew it was cheap to be there. So I first reached out to him and I'm like, hey, cuz, I think I want to come out there to see you. None of our cousins had been there to see him. And he's like, yo, bet, come through. I've been here for like 5 years.
Nice.
I would love to have you. And so he told me how inexpensive it was. That was the beginning. Next up, I reached out to a girlfriend I knew who was more of an avid traveler. She had been to London. She, went all over the Caribbean, but she didn't mention how she had ever been to Asia. And so I was like, yo, you know what? Let's just make this happen. I tapped her to join No Madness Travel Tribe. And while I was in the group, I just kept getting inspired by different people. One woman in particular, her name is Sanjaya. To date now, she's been to all 50 states. She's been to
Oh,
all seven
nice.
continents. Yeah, she's been to like over 100 countries. And I noticed that a lot of her travels were solo. So I tapped her and I was like, hey, Sanjaya, I'm trying to plan a trip with my girlfriend who actually bailed on me. She couldn't go anymore. Things happen, life happens. And I texted, I shot Sanjaya, excuse me, a Facebook Messenger message. And I said, hey, here's my dilemma. Here's my situation. I want to go. How is the solo travel experience for you? And she wrote me back what I call not 2 cents, but $20. She gave me so much information. And she just said, if you want to make this happen, here's how you can do it. She kind of spoke life into me. And I just knew, all right, the toughest part is going to be securing my airline ticket.
Okay.
I had a non-negotiable. I said I want to fly Emirates. So how can I make that happen? I knew that would be the bulk of my budget. So I booked the flight on Emirates. And then from there, I was like, well, let me go ahead and check out some of these like Airbnbs and different lodgings that my cousin put me on to.
Now,
In
is this the one you flew business class or
No,
first
I
class?
flew regular standard
Economy.
class Emirates, but it felt
Okay.
like business.
Okay.
But yeah, he put me on to some spots in Thailand, and then with No Madness, that really helped. Like I was like, all right, guys, I'm going to be going to Cambodia after Thailand. Can you guys recommend lodging? And so I had some people recommending hostels. So that was my first experience in a hostel. And I saw like hostels were not what you see in Taken. It was like,
Yes.
these are actually dope. I have my own bathroom. I have my own sleeping quarters. I have my own little balcony. I could rock out here. And so after doing that and like kind of asking different questions on that travel page, I was like, I'm prepared. I have all that I need. And I would ask questions along the way. When I was going to Dubai, I figured out I can kind of extend my trip. There were some people from the Madness Travel Tribe coming back from South Africa. So we linked
Ooh.
up in Dubai overnight. Um,
Oh, so
we
you
had
did
some
do Dubai.
Yeah, I was in
Nice.
Dubai. I flew in. I forgot what time it was. I was like all out of whack, but I got there. It was hella hot. Got to my hotel, checked in, linked up with that crew, did a sunset tour in the middle of the desert, had the whole safari experience, and it was cool. The whole henna and smoking hookah and all of that. I almost missed my flight to Bangkok the next morning because I had a really good time. But yeah, so money for me, it was never a big thing. It was like, all right, what's the most expensive aspect? The flight? All right, bet. Plan my trip around that. And then that's
Okay.
how I kept on going.
Nice. So what did you that's I guess that's a better way of asking. Did you have any other apprehensions to travel? Like what was the reason why you hadn't traveled until such like a later time in life?
Sure, sure. Like you and like so many other Black Americans, I thought it was just too expensive. Those cousins and aunts and relatives that I had who did travel like to exotic places, I knew. I'll mention one aunt in particular, Aunt Renee. Her money was stupid. So like
Right.
Aunt Renee had a brownstone on across the street from the Brooklyn Museum.
Whew.
Yeah, she sold
Oh,
it,
that
but she
auntie.
had this. Yeah, she was the rich auntie. So
Right.
she's over here traveling to exotic places, and it's like, well, this is just her lifestyle. I'm not on that level. But
Yeah.
in doing more research and just asking questions, especially in that travel group, it was like, this is really possible. Like a lot of us do a serious disservice to ourselves by not just asking questions
Mm,
and just unpacking and asking more and more questions. I was like, this is really doable, and I don't have to go into debt to make it happen.
right. I was really surprised to see how affordable travel is. And then also, duh, you ain't got to pay for it all in one shot. That's one thing. I think that's one misconception that people have is that for some reason, you're responsible for paying for everything in one single swipe.
So yeah,
You can absolutely pay for your flight, separate than you can pay from for your accommodations, and
yep.
then again separate from all of your excursions, so you can
Mhm.
really plan this out and financially map this
Word.
so that it's not as heavy a burden for you. Like you said, the flight is generally the most expensive unless you're staying, high end first class, got to be in 5-star hotels, or if you're renting fucking Versace's mansion for yourself. Vai con Dios, sis. Go with God and good luck with that budget.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if that's not what you're doing, absolutely book your flight. And then if you have the opportunity to really book your travel and things in advance, then you know that this month I'm saving for this. This next month I'm saving for that. Depending on what your limitations or what your process needs to be for travel, because I know with
Sure.
my job I can't necessarily plan out for something 6 months in advance, 5 months in advance. My job does things vacation times quarterly, and I
Okay.
don't necessarily get off when I want, excuse me. I get off when it's available.
Got it.
So once I'm approved for a vacation, then it's generally within like a 3 or 4 month window, and I know that's the furthest out that I can book in advance if I've requested and been approved for time that was that far out. Otherwise, like I've done a trip in 2 weeks.
You've
I've
done
done
amazing
a
trips.
trip in, shit, like a week in advance. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Done some dope trips, girl.
hello. And I can't, I am gonna hold you like, yeah, the kid has.
Yes,
And I think
yes.
that part of that though is just because I'm a laid back person. That's another thing. Consider what your personality is in terms of your travel. What matters to you? I
Yep.
don't think that really gets emphasized enough in terms of, deciding, booking, and executing a successful trip.
Right.
I've yet to really do, except for the last trip I took with my boyfriend, I've yet to do like, I've only done 3 trips with other people. One was my mom, one was my really, really close friend, and boyfriend. And they've each been different trips in terms of traveling with different people.
Yeah.
And your relationship with the people that you're traveling, of course, is going to play a role. But in terms of planning those trips, what I've also realized is that depending on the personalities involved, you either want to have a lot of it planned in advance or you
Mhm.
want to have as little as possible planned in advance.
I agree.
Yeah. So, what has your experience been in different types of trips between
Mm.
traveling with people, traveling solo? Have you traveled with a romantic partner? Have you traveled with family? I know you've done the friends trip. Like, what
Yeah.
have your different experiences been?
Sure. So I think back to like my first international trip. That was with family. It was with my
Okay.
cousins and my sister. We went to Jamaica, all inclusive trip. We had a great time. I mean, it's like we grew up together, so it was like
Oh,
there was
wait.
no.
Sorry. Another pause. Can we just plug your sister and say that that is like my dream brow
Yes.
person? Like, I'm really ready to, like,
Look at these brows. Yeah. So my
right.
sister is Taryn Brows. She has a brow studio on Fifth Avenue between 31st and 32nd. She's been in business for well over 12 years. She not only does brows for us commoners, but also for a few celebrities. I think Tiana Harris. Tiana, I forgot her first name.
Tiana Taylor.
Homegirl, Tiana, not Tiana Taylor.
I was
Shorty
about to say.
from,
Whew.
nah, she's from like that movie, The Photograph. She was Rel's wife in the movie.
Oh, okay. Tiana
I,
Paris
Tiana
or
Paris, yes.
Parish or Paris. I know
But we're on
exactly
the
who you're
same
speaking
page.
of. Yes. Okay.
Yes. A few Instagram models, a few influencers go to her, but of course we got to give it up for Mary J. Blige, be one of her star clients for several years. Yeah, you know. So yes, that's my sis. So yeah, but I want to also give myself props because I was her guinea pig for many years. So you all are reaping the benefits of me looking like hella crazy in these streets
She says
with
you're
my
welcome, folks.
over to these brows. Yes. But yeah, so so yes, I went with my sister and my cousin, had a great time. Went with an ex-boyfriend. I lied. My first international trip was with my ex-boyfriend. He took me on a
Mm,
cruise. We went to the
okay.
Bahamas, had a great time. That was cool. Then, my cousin, my sister,
Hmm.
did the friend thing. I learned during that trip, D, you cannot travel with all friends. We went
Oop.
to South Africa. I missed out on a safari because I was with these girls, as opposed to rocking out with some new friends I had made and going on a safari with them. I
Mm.
learned my lesson. I just say, you know what? It is what it is.
Yeah.
But
Be
when
flexible.
that's it. But then I realized like I don't travel like everyone else. And when you solo travel, you pick that up right away. You have the luxury to say, today I want to be chill, or today I want to see everything, see all the things. I want to like throw myself out there and just explore as much as possible. And as
Right.
a solo traveler, I will say one thing that's really, really big for me. I never have a hard itinerary. What I have on my trip is a list of things that I want to see before I go back home.
Got
I
it.
don't know what day I'm going to see these things unless they're like you have to plan them. So let's say
Right. Like it's only available on Mondays or it's only
exactly,
option for the morning and not the evening kind of thing.
exactly. So like for me, one of my must haves or must dos, if possible, is a cooking class. Whatever country I
Mm.
go to, I try to do that. Bring the culture back home to my crib so I can make some dishes in my own kitchen. That's something I will kind of bend my schedule around. But other than that, I'm kind of like, yo, today I'm gonna chill. Today I'm gonna do
Yeah.
this, and I'll chill and I'll just see what happens. And in doing that, kind of traveling that way, those who ask to come with me, I can kind of weed them out and just realize, all right, well, I travel this way. How do you travel?
Yeah.
And the last time I did that, I went with my homegirl to Bali in 2019. Avid solo traveler on her own. We had a fucking ball. We met for the first time in Bali in our
Oh,
shared Airbnb lodge. Yeah, we had spoken on the phone for like weeks prior. Our mutual friend was like, "Hey, you guys would have a great time. Go together," and we had a fucking ball. We were gone for like almost 2 weeks, and I will travel with her any day of the week, any day.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how I roll. I feel like I learn from traveling. I love solo travel, preferably. I fuck with excuse me.
You can
I
curse,
will
girl.
mess okay, cool. I
Go
fucks
for it.
with people who are cool and laid back. I can't stand rigid people who want to
Yeah.
adhere to a schedule. I don't operate that way.
Hmm.
Who doesn't love a vacation? So I'm planning something and I'm gonna have to talk to you offline to get that going for March. But I like them all for different reasons.
Nice segue. So,
Well, thank you.
no, about the base, about the base. So I feel as if it's because, like, when people ask how I met my boyfriend, I always say, oh, duh, like any self respecting hermit millennial, I met him online. I don't go
Hello.
outside. Like, So, shout out to us, new, happy, healthy, loving relationships.
Hey.
I hear it went a little travel related. How did that go? Give the girls
Exactly.
hope.
I'm gonna give y'all all hope, bitches, all of y'all. All right. So, what happened was this: my most recent trip. Like everybody in New York, we got tired of being locked down.
Mm-hmm.
Where did we go? To the place letting us in, to Mexico. So
Right.
I had never been to Mexico in my life. I mean, it was next door, but you know how you and I roll, D. It's like, how can
Mm-hmm.
we get to the other side of the world? That's where we wanted to go. We didn't want to go
Yep.
next door.
Yep.
So, when Mexico was the new wave, it was like, well, I guess I'll go. I hollered at you first because I was like, D, let's go to Mexico. And the powers that be didn't allow you to go because of your schedule. And I
Yeah.
was like, all right, I'll go solo. But I knew I wanted to experience Tulum. And in doing my curating of that trip, I learned there were no Ubers and that you had to pretty much do a car rental. And I'm pretty adventurous, but I was like, nighttime driving in a spot I don't know. I don't really want to roll out there solo. Let me holler at my other homegirl. Did that. That wound up being her and her girlfriend, and we all became real cool. But so it was just a girlfriend's trip.
Mm-hmm.
And my girl P, I'll spare her full identity. My girl P used to post crazy on Instagram. But for this trip, she was like, nah, I'm not really posting. If y'all want to know how I'm doing or what the travel looks like, go to my girl Marissa's page at Unicorn and BK. Shameless plug. And so on Instagram. And so in her doing that, I had garnered some new likes, some new followers. One in particular, one of her best friend, he DM'd her and was like, hey, who's this woman? I've never seen her before. And I've known you for like almost 20 years. And I've known P for almost 10, if not 10 years. So anyway, he checked out my page and then he was like, yo, she's single. And he was like, you can't date her. But I guess something in her was like, let me go ahead and give it a try. So she gave him the green light. He DM'd me. And while I was out there, I just replied back like, hey, nice to meet you. Like I didn't even give him any attention. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
in Mexico with my homegirls. I get back home. He DMs me, happy you had a safe trip. And, we can talk. We had exchanged numbers. And the next day after Mexico, I was basically bashing some Black in Tulum Facebook group about how ain't shit it ain't. And he DM'd
Wait,
me and
how
it was
ancient Tulum is, or how
how ain't shit
ancient the
that
group
group
is?
was. That
Got
group,
it.
Black in Tulum, a waste of time. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a complete tangent, but I'll just say this. If you put something in the group at 10 a.m., you have to wait for it to get approved. It may not happen until later in the day or the next day. And then it's like, well, I don't need that help anymore. Pointless group, but I
Got
digress.
it. Got
I
it.
was on my Insta story sharing this, and homeboy, he DMs me. So I was like, oh, I forgot about this guy, kind of. Like, I didn't even go to his page. I didn't know how he looked, nothing. All I knew is that they met in a program that was very technical, which garnered my interest. And then I knew that he was a nice guy and that he was fun. Long story short, I got tired of texting him. So I sent him a voice note and
Mm-hmm.
he replied back via voice note. And I was like, oh God, is that you? Is that how you sound when you speak to me? Because his voice was everything. And so that's when I was like,
Same thing with this one.
see?
I was like,
Like, oh, okay, James Earl Jones and Lenny Green and Quiet Storm. I mean, BLS, y'all have his phone
intrigued.
number?
Right.
Word. So he caught me off guard. Then I was like, let me see how his Instagram page looks. I had to request. I did. And then I was like, okay, all right. And we made plans to speak the next day, that Thursday. We spoke for 4 hours and spoke again on Friday and Thursday, excuse me. And then we went out on Friday and we've been rocking out ever since. Tomorrow makes 2 months officially.
Hey,
Yeah.
we both
Good things happening
happy.
in 2020.
Right. It but the year wasn't a wash. It
It
really wasn't a
wasn't.
wash. And I'm glad that it wasn't. As much as 2020 has taken, especially being a traveler,
Girl.
especially I like being, as much as I hate being outside, I like being outside. You know what I mean? Just the fresh air, meeting up for drinks, meeting up for, food, and just really, you know what, I'm going to walk here, or I'm going to do this, and I'm going to walk from my job, just because it's like I work in Lower Manhattan. I'm like accessible to everything in terms of things that I want to do. And being is that the stars aligned and COVID is here. But I really feel like I've got so much to be grateful for in 2020. Like the job that I have, I am very unhappy at, but I don't hate, because it really affords me so many luxuries that I have.
Word.
Like, I'm able to afford travel because of this job.
Yeah.
I'm able to, go to the doctor or the dentist when something don't feel right because of this job. So it's like I don't really like shitting on the job, but
Word. Word.
and the dog is snoring. Oh, God bless.
Binksy.
And
Binksy's
she like,
comfy.
okay, and she like nice shit too. So this pays for her nice things as well. And she's always getting into some wild shit. And so yes, I
Oh,
do have to pay for the vet bills and whatnot.
word.
But yeah, so I'm happy that, we both had 20 love came through and swooped up 2020 for us,
Love, clarity. 2020 has been a blessing for me. I am
Yeah.
very thankful for this year.
Yeah,
Very.
this is the most time I've spent out of work, and God, amen. I've still, like, my job is paying for me to stay home in a lot of time. And so as much as I, would like to be on somebody's beach right now, that's the other caveat, is that I can't necessarily travel as freely as I would like, because I believe in solidarity. I believe in, if I'm putting myself at risk, I'm also putting my coworkers at risk. I believe in, taking that L and not being on somebody's beach or in somebody's foreign location every chance that I get,
Word.
because I wouldn't want to put my coworkers at risk either. And I hope that they respect and care for the rest of us in the building enough that, they do the same. But I can't rely on what other people are doing. I know that I can only be as good a person as I decide to be. And
Yeah.
I choose and believe in solidarity. I believe in doing what I can to keep other people safe.
No doubt.
Not that I necessarily shit on people that are out and about traveling, because I understand how travel really is like a mental health, a really big savior for a lot of people. And not everybody has the household that I have. I'm
Word.
safe at home. I'm
Mhm.
comfortable. I'm
Word.
happy. You know what I mean? And I understand that not everybody has that luxury. You know what I mean? You may not like all of your roommates. Your roommates may be actually putting you at more risk because they skip scrappy asses out doing all types of wild shit and bringing whatever home. You know what I mean? So
Or talk about the relationships real quick, D. Like the people who are married and can't stand their husbands now or their wives now. I've heard all kind of stories. Like, well, damn, I'm happy that I don't live with
right.
anyone else. Yeah.
A lot of people are stuck in home situations that aren't conducive to good mental health, good physical health, and a lot of different things. So and then also, it ain't my bread. It ain't my personal space. It ain't my time. So I really try not to, dictate or judge what other grown ass people are doing. Now,
Yeah.
when you have to be in my space, when you have to now, share 6 feet of air with me, that's when I feel a little bit like, so how we living over here? We good?
Yeah. Yeah. How
Your
we
lockers
doing
are
this? How we
crossed.
doing this?
Like,
Yeah.
our lockers is man closest. Like, but where was you at last week? You good? That's when it bothers me a little more. But other
For
than that,
sure.
it's just
For
like
sure.
I really try, just the same way I try not to destination judge. I'm
Yeah.
not judging somebody that wants to go to Vegas every 6 months. If
Same.
that's just these, if that's what you enjoy, by all means, bruh, go out and do that. It ain't
Word.
my thing. I don't go to Vegas for gambling and parties, but I damn sure did enjoy the Grand Canyon, Antelope Canyon. I enjoyed all of the surrounding areas in a couple of days that I was out there. So if you happen to like parties but not hiking, do you? It's
That's
your thing.
it. That's
So I
it.
really think that a lot of us could really benefit from not, because of course in those same travel groups, like wherever you go, and I will say though, those same travel groups have been quite a resource. I've gotten a lot of good information.
100%.
I've met a lot of incredible people through different travel groups, especially on Facebook. I will stress that the Facebook travel groups is where the meat is at. That's where I've really found a lot of good connects, information and all that jazz. But people are people, and people will always people when they're being people, and there's a lot of judgment. And as much as I think that I'm not ready to necessarily go too far right now, or I have my different restrictions or concerns over different destinations, I'll be damned if I'm gonna talk shit about somebody that has the access and the means and the desire to go someplace. Just do it
Word.
safely. You know what I mean?
Word.
It's just like, everybody just be safe and mind your fucking business.
That's it.
But that being said, the last trip where your shorty was blessed
Popped up
with
on my ass.
the visibles. What was that travel like? Because I know that was COVID travel. So what was your
Yeah.
COVID travel experience like?
Sure. I guess I can talk about my most recent one and then the one right before COVID took over
Hmm.
the whole world. So my most recent one, I flew into Cancun.
Okay.
We knew we were going to do like 3 days in Tulum, 3 days in a sandbar about 2 hours north of Tulum called Holbox.
Pause on
Spelled
that. If you ever want to follow somebody that does low key, high key shit, Marissa is the person. When I tell you she finds the fanciest and the schwankiest shit without being fucking rational about it. It's like I remember when we were looking into doing Tulum because before I got
yeah.
the complete no, I was just like, I don't know. Let's see what this paperwork is looking like.
Let's check. Right.
And you was like when you sent me the reservations, or you know what? No, what was the other trip when I was in Guadalupe, and
Yes.
I had
But
gone to
Nicaragua.
Guadalupe,
Uh-huh.
and you had sent me one of the places that either you stayed in Nicaragua,
Nicaragua.
or you were looking to stay in Guadalupe, and I was just like, oh, I see we got different budgets, sis.
But still affordable though. Still affordable.
Right, but that's the difference, and that is the caveat where you'd spend a couple hundred more, but then have so much more at your disposal. And I've learned that in a lot of situations, it's motherfucking absolutely worth it. You
For
have
sure.
to book for what matters to you. You have to really consider how you are as a person and what you would like to put the emphasis on and where you'd like your dollar to matter the most.
Word.
And you find the best locations. Like they're perfectly nestled in the midst of all the different opportunities. Because I remember you gave me a lot of really good recommendations for Bali when I went.
Yeah.
And you definitely told me, like, this is the area. If you're going to be interested in doing X, Y, and Z, Ubud is the place for it. This is where
Yep.
you want to stay in this kind of general location if this is what you're going to be getting into. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I learned from you, and one of the things I learned through trial and fucking error, is sometimes it's really worth, all the time is worth it to spend more on your location. If you know
100%.
that you want to spend more time at the beach, spend a little bit extra money and get you a beach. I don't know if y'all could hit a dog snoring. Get you a little, spend you a little bit more and get a beachfront property so you don't have to spend in taxis. You don't have to spend in time taking a bus or walking to the beach when you can spend a 5-10 minute walk versus walking 30 minutes or taking a 20-minute Uber or whatever and then spending that money.
Yep.
So yes, please go ahead and tell me about your last trip because you be tripping.
Sure. No, all good, all good. So for Tulum, I went with two other girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
We wound up getting a 3-bedroom Airbnb. So my girl P, she secured that lodging. What we did is we knew she was going to secure the lodging for that, and I was going to secure lodging for Holbox. So we kind of went back and forth with Tulum, like Airbnbs that we saw, and it was key, basically saying, piggybacking off of what you just said in regards to location. I knew that we wanted to be like in a central area. We didn't want to have to go chase or take a taxi or drive our car all the way to the beach, like 30, 40 minutes
Right.
away. We wanted to be, about 15, 20 minutes from the beach. We wanted to be near the hip strip if we wanted to have a little bit of nightlife, go to have some food. And so we found a dope 3-bedroom apartment in this like luxury, like apartment complex. There was a pool downstairs in the main area as well as on the rooftop. But our lodging was beautiful. Like each woman had their own bathroom, their own ensuite. We had heat.
What?
Yeah, we each had our own bathroom, a beautiful communal space in the kitchen, living room area. They gave us beach bags. We wanted to go to the beach. There was concierge 24/7 security. We had our car, so we were straight. We were, I think,
The lodging came with a car, like a driver?
oh no. We rented our own car. Yeah, we rented our
Oh,
own car.
I was about to be like,
They weren't that lux, girl. No. We were, I think, about a 10 or a 12-minute drive from Paradise Beach, which was off the beaten path. So you had most of the people going to Tulum going to this. I forgot the name of the popular beach, but it was the beach that had Taboo Club, like a beach bar
okay.
that everyone was flocking to, where the DJs were. And I'm like, all of y'all people are on top of each other. I didn't come to Tulum to do that. I wanted to be away from y'all niggas. So we
Right.
went to Paradise Beach, off the beaten path, but beyond gorgeous. You had people you were meeting from. I met people from Bed-Stuy and the next cabana over from
Brooklyn
me.
everywhere,
Oh,
bruh.
everywhere,
I
son,
don't care
everywhere.
where you go. Brooklyn's there.
Everywhere, everywhere. And it's crazy because it was like, wait, you know Ty? I know Ty. Like, we have a mutual friend out here in Brooklyn. It was like, of course you know Ty.
Right.
Anyway, we still had that sense of like interacting and mingling with people, but we had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of space. So
Nice.
after Tulum, we drove 2 hours to the marina to get to the boat. We chartered a private little boat, like a little water taxi. Took a 30-minute drive to Holbox. That was beyond off the beaten path, D. And I'll just say this, in the entire experience, you realize how disgusting America is. While we were
Mm.
out there, temperature checks wherever you went, our bags were sprayed down. We went on a catamaran ride and we had docked to go have lunch. They made you walk through like a tunnel where there was like spray coming at you in every different direction. Masks were prevalent. I never felt unsafe anywhere. Whereas here, it's just like you're taking your chances in the
Yeah.
States, but I never felt that way in Mexico at all. If I
Third
did,
world
it was
country where?
okay.
Ain't nothing third world.
Rapping on them, talking about build a wall around them, and it's just like, nah, like they clearly
They
have it
want to
together.
keep us out.
This country does not have it together. This country's hella ghetto. But I'll just say this: that I felt very safe. If there was ever a time where I didn't feel safe, like if there were like a little too many people in a restaurant, you can kind of request a table and a cut. Like, all right, we want to be over there, away from all the
Mm-hmm.
people, or we would just get up and go. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like that though. You were outside dining. You weren't on top of people, and it was good. I had a great time.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what was your pre-COVID trip like? Because I know you barely made it home before the world like crumbled in behind
Closed
you.
down. Yeah. So I think this is around the time when you were in Guadalupe. You went to
Mm-hmm.
Guadalupe this February, I want to say.
January. I
Yeah,
got back.
January.
Want to say the beginning of or was it February? No. Yeah, it was the beginning of February I got back. Like I went on that last week of January, I want to say. COVID
Okay.
wasn't yet really a thing in the media. It wasn't a thing
Oh,
that
at
I'd
all.
heard of it now cuz
Same.
I only watch the news at work. But yeah, I hadn't heard any concerns or anything like that. So
It
COVID
wasn't a thing
was a
yet.
nothing. Yeah.
It
I
was a
mean,
whispering, if
not
anything.
that part cuz I know
Yeah.
that people were talking about it,
Yeah.
but it wasn't prevalent in media or anywhere that,
For
somebody
sure.
like me would pick up
For
on it.
sure. I remember asking you about Guadalupe, and I was like, all right, girl, I think I want to go out there, but how far are you from the beach? So on and so forth. So I was like, all right, well, that's a contender. And then I was like,
Hmm.
well, maybe Costa Rica, because I knew I wanted the beach. I wanted to be
Yeah.
so close to the beach I could just cross the street and be there.
Hmm.
And at this time, I was in school. And I was talking to one of my classmates, my girl Roxy, and Roxy is Nicaraguan. So I was
Hmm.
like, yo, Rox, what's up with your country? Like, you always talk about it so highly. And she recommended a few places to go. So I went home and I started curating a possible trip to Nicaragua. I didn't know about the timing, but I just said, well, I'm going to make it happen sometime. And I'm kind of like a last minute Sally for certain things, especially for a spot like Nicaragua. I was like, I can go out there like a week after I book my ticket. I knew that, time off from work wouldn't be an issue. It was a matter of like, if there were any major meetings happening, can I work around it? Long
Right.
story short, um, I found a spot. I found a surf lodge that would have given me a room on the beach. Literally, you open the door
Ooh,
and the sand is right there.
this is
And
what
it
I'm
was
talking
50,
about. You be finding the spots.
but and it was
Fucking surf
50
lodge, bro.
random, 50 US dollars a night. It included a beautiful breakfast with
Pack it
like
up.
French press coffee, juice, fruits, and whatever, your choice of like 3 or 4 items on the menu. And then for lunch, it was like, well, go ahead and go into town and figure out what you want to do for lunch. But everything was accessible via walking. And that was big for me because I took a 2.5 hour taxi from the airport, which the Surf Lodge sent to me
What?
for about $80. Yeah, about 80 US dollars one way, which was well worth it.
Hell
Homie picked me
yeah.
up. Homie picked me
Two
up.
and
He
a half
had,
hours long. That's
okay,
respectable.
but
You spend
he
that
had
getting from fucking Queens to Manhattan in 20 minutes.
basically, he came through, picked me up. He had a cooler full of ice. He had beers. We stopped so I
In
can
the,
get some
in the
cash.
cab?
In
What?
the cab, my G, in the cab. I was just like, you deserve the fee they're asking for, plus a tip.
Oh,
So when
really? Mix
it
it
was
with it.
dope. It was dope. So basically, before I left, I should add this. I knew that COVID was a thing. COVID was being, it was a bit of
Yeah.
a more of a, it was an audible whisper, like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I kind of hear what's going on. Um, I think I booked my ticket before I left, maybe 2 weeks before I left. And the day before, because I had a red eye flight out of
Hmm.
LaGuardia, hate that fucking airport, but
Same.
had a red eye
Same.
flight. And I was up late the previous night, as I usually am before a flight, because I typically will like be cleaning up. I don't want to come back home to clutter. And I'm a last minute packer. So I had the news on because I knew what was going on. And Trump came on CNN or whatever page, whatever news channel it was, and he said, "We're closing our doors to every country in Europe but the UK." And so once I heard that, I'm like, "Well, my flight is to Miami, that I'm going to connect and go to Nicaragua. Nicaragua's letting me in, so I guess I'm flying out tomorrow." So I finished packing, and I'm thinking at this point, "Oh, the airport's going to be super empty. No one's going to be out there." Sis, my flight was full to capacity. Not
Woo.
one person, there was no empty seat. Not one person had canceled their flight.
And no
So,
masks at that point either, right?
no, people did, you know what? It was a lot of frenzy. So, here's the thing about the mask I want to add. I tend to sleep and doze off on the plane with my mouth open at times. And I'm also a germaphobe. So, I was always that girl, whether I check my bag or not. I have a small pouch I take out. I have Clorox wipes because the trays are
Mm-hmm.
always dirty. I
They're trash.
always travel in a hoodie because I don't want my hair touching the headrest. Always, and I
Yes.
always have a mask. I always had a mask because for me it was like recirculated air. I didn't want to breathe that in with my mouth wide open. I always had a mask. So for me it was
Got
like,
you.
all right,
Okay.
because my routine was get my nails done before the trip, and it was like, hey, you have an extra mask or two I can have for my pouch when I go fly to wherever I'm going to, and then come back home. And they would give you like 2 or 3 little disposable masks always.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice.
anyway, get to the airport and people were like kind of frantic. People had like plastic gloves, they had
Mm-hmm.
latex gloves, they had the mask, they had the shields, and it was like, y'all dudes are doing the most, but whatever. This is new to you
Mm-hmm.
guys, fine. I get on the plane, it was cool. Now, when I got to Nicaragua on purpose, I was disconnected from social media.
Mm-hmm.
I would post and I would dip. I wouldn't look at a
Yeah.
timeline. Wi-Fi was kind of sketchy where I was on purpose. There was no TV. I was just like kind of mingling with people I was meeting, other expats, and just like getting to know people who lived in the area. I told my bestie and my sister, if anything goes really, really left, do me a favor and just email me or, DM me or I message me and let me know you want to like look into coming back home early.
Yeah.
And of course, being gone from like, I think it was Wednesday to like a Tuesday, a lot of shit went down. Like things were like changing hour by hour. So I think it was the Sunday before I came home. My sister was like, I think you might want to think about coming back. And I was like, well, I bought my work laptop and I told my manager before I left, if I get stuck out here, I'm prepared to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I have my work laptop. I travel with a few extra pieces of clothing just in case. And I just made some cool connections while I was out there. And I knew I would have had lodging if I needed it for like a discounted rate for an indefinite
Mm-hmm.
amount of time.
Nice.
Long story short, Sunday, my sis was like, yo, just stay. She kind of was like, come home. And she was like, just go ahead and stay. I mean, it makes sense. It's a shit show over here. We don't have toilet paper here. People
Yeah.
don't have like access to grocery stores. And I was like, yo, what's going on back home? So I tried to call American because I flew American, couldn't get through. I had my sister and my bestie calling back in the States and they couldn't get through. And I was like, guys, if I don't get a confirmation email, like I went on the website, it crashed. You couldn't even get online to like change anything. It was crazy. Um, I said, guys, if I don't get a confirmation email by Tuesday, I guess I'm staying. I got the confirmation email on Tuesday and it was like, all right, bet I'm flying home tomorrow. So my taxi driver came and got me, took me to the airport the following morning. Now, mind you, in driving, I had no Wi-Fi for about 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So the second I get to the airport, my loved ones were like, "Hey, are you there yet?" I tapped into Wi-Fi. I'm like, "Are you there yet? Let us know when you get on the airplane." So I get to my gate, and I'm just like, the frenzy is like palpable. Like everyone's super nervous, and I was just like, "Yo, just chill." Like I don't like how this feels, but I was gonna like kind of like stay to myself and get home. So I'm on the plane. There was a young girl next to me. I said like in her like early 20s. And she was just like, solo trip. I'm like, yeah, solo trip. And she was like, yo, it's crazy back in the States. I was like, I don't even know what I'm coming home to, but I could just tell people are really frantic. I landed in LaGuardia. The airport was desolate. There
Hmm.
was like only people from my flight were like walking around. A friend picked me up and he was just like, it's crazy out here. Do you have toilet paper? Do you have groceries? And I was like, no. I
Right.
guess I'll come crash at your spot in your extra room since you have food and you have toilet paper. Stayed there for a week. And then I was like slowly coming out of my travel bubble of like listening to the news and like going on
Right.
social media. And that's when I was like, all right, things are about to get real. So I had, wrapping it all up, kind of had regrets. I wish I would have stayed. A part of me was like, I should have just stayed and just been in that Zen space with other expats who were just like not worried, who weren't as frantic. Then there was a part of me that was like, nah, I'm happy I came home because if things got really crazy and the US closed the borders, which they did to
Yeah.
Nicaraguans, um, I would have wanted to be close to my family and friends if something really popped off.
Yeah, and God forbid you did get stuck out there. Who's to say how long you are out there? And what is their visa situation like? Do they have like a 3 month, 4 month, 6 month?
You
You know,
know
that's
what?
another thing.
You're right. It's funny you asked that. I had met some cool ass expats my last night out there. They were from the UK and they were mentioning how they had to go back within a matter of weeks to get their visa renewal or something like
Yeah.
that. So I think it was a 3 month situation. Nothing long.
Okay, because that would have been an issue
That would
as
have been an
well.
issue for sure.
Granted, who's really going to say that you're not Nicaraguan? And you know
Okay.
what I mean? It's just
My
shut
Spanish
up,
is
don't
okay.
speak. You know what I mean? Like I find
Yeah.
that as long as I just stay quiet and mind my
Just
black ass
smile.
business, I tend to not stir or
I
raise any
know.
alarms. But yeah, that eventually at some point could have become an issue, and then it's just like, well, you paying rent on an apartment in Brooklyn. Oh,
Bruh.
hey
In
Moon, I see
Bed-Stuy,
you.
Brooklyn. So
Okay.
you
So you're
already
paying
know.
rent, you still paying utilities, you still have bills coming in, you still are responsible for your life at home,
That's
whether
it.
you're near or far. And now the extra expense of I still want to do a couple of things here and there. It's just like, and then I'm curious as to what that transition is like. If it is like, what kind of switch do you mentally have to really consider when you're going from tourist to now not tenant but like tourist to expat or tourist to actual resident, if you will. I have a homegirl that just moved out to Mexico indefinitely on Sunday. My homegirl Denise, she actually did an episode with me. I want to say it was like episode 110 or 115 or something. But what is that transition like from being a tourist to now being like a temporary resident, if you will? You can't necessarily, you have to consider like, what's my housing at home look like? Did I sublet it? Am I still paying rent? My utilities, even though I'm not using it, I still got to pay something for gas. I still got to give them something for electric. I still got to pay for, my Visa. I still got to pay
Wi-Fi.
this MasterCard. I still got to pay that Spectrum bill. You know what I mean? I still got to pay my cell phone bill. All of those things have to be paid even though you're abroad. But being
Yep.
abroad, you still want to spend money like you're on vacation. You still want to go out. You still want to, you know what I mean? Then adapting to what the grocery stores are like. That was like the wildest shit for me. It's always the grocery store. I'm not a cooker. I don't enjoy cooking while I'm at home. So whenever I'm in a foreign ass grocery store, it's kind of like, all right, how hard can this be? It's food. I know
Yep.
what it is when I look at it. But then you don't realize how heavily you rely on labeling. You don't realize how
Yep.
heavily you rely on descriptions. I know I was in fucking Norway and I'm just like, it's a grocery store. It's not rocket science. Just like focus and pick something up.
Do it.
And I'm just like, uh, uh, is there a saturated fat? And I'm like, bitch, you don't never pay attention to saturated fat in here. But now I'm looking at things that I have no idea about because
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what did you put in here? Because then also keep in mind shit across the pond or overseas, they be putting wild shit and stuff, just like in
Why?
terms of flavoring.
But it's
Mayonnaise
better
flavored
though.
chips. Not no mayonnaise flavored ass chips. I don't want none of that. And they be having wild shit like that. So now I'm thinking, all right, yeah, it's instant soup, but what the fuck flavor is it? It's a shrimp. Is this a shrimp or is it a prawn? I don't necessarily want prawn ass ramen. You know what I mean? I'm good with shrimp. I don't know how the fuck y'all prawn ramen tastes. So I gotta pay attention to those kind of things. And it's just me and the way my mind works. And so I know that would be the little hiccup for me is transitioning from being a tourist and being responsible with how I'm spending my money. Am I just, you want to go out and swim, you want to go out and do things, but I got to come home and work. Like I have to come home. What
Yeah.
is my Wi-Fi like? You know what I mean? Now that's another thing. The Wi-Fi was already a little shoddy where you are. Now imagine having to work and being surrounded with other expats that are trying to work as well. You know what I mean? Little
That
things
would have
like
been
that.
something. Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like the joy and the relaxation that is appreciated in terms of being someplace tropical and just someplace where there's the surroundings that bring you peace, but then at the same time having to live a regular life can still be a little bit jarring perhaps in certain cases. And I'm very happy I didn't have, well, my job doesn't afford that luxury, but my job does afford other luxuries. But
Yes.
yeah, that's one thing that I'm glad that I didn't have to work on. But speaking of working on things and work, what are you currently working on? Like what is to come of your writings? What is going on with Unicorn in Brooklyn? Like where can the people find your writings? As I've said, you are an incredible writer. So like
Thank you so much.
where is that?
So I want to speak to where Unicorn in Brooklyn is, but also to writing in general. So with regards to 2020 being so gracious to me from a love life perspective, also I want to speak to I want to speak to 2020 being super gracious with regards to um, clarity and purpose and direction. So most of my professional experience is in human resources. And in an effort to escape that world, I was like, I don't want to go back to school. What can I do? So I transitioned into like doing executive assistant work just to kind of get my feet into different companies, to dabble around, talk to people, to network, and to figure out where I wanted to jump into next. Like, where could I apply my transitional HR skills? And so in doing that, I wound up at Facebook for about a year. Wasn't for me. There was not really a lot of growth opportunities there. Then I dipped and I came to my current company, where I am now, again, as an executive assistant or an EA. But in doing that, I was just like, all right, well, you know what? I know I don't want to be here. I don't have the personality to be an EA. Like, I just don't have it in me. I was like, all right, well, once upon a time, I was in school to be a physician assistant. Let me go ahead and go back to that, retake all those sciences and go back into the medical field. So I went back to school last July. I retook all these hard ass science courses while working full time. And I maintained A's in every class. But then it was just like this year, when COVID hit, I was just like, this is not clicking anymore. I know I like helping people, but I can't see me prescribing people medication when it's like, I'd want to say, have you tried this herb? Have you tried that? And I know I would get in trouble. Like, Miss Clark, you can't keep not prescribing medication. You got to give them drugs. That's not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So I decided I had some tough, like, man in the mirror, a woman in the mirror moments. And I was just like, yo, what makes me happy? What am I always told I'm really good at? Storytelling. And so in doing that, I thought about how I could apply my love and make it something that would basically allow me to live my lifestyle the way I want to live my lifestyle. I took the plunge, I walked away from science, and then I was like, well, I'm going to go with storytelling. So Unicorn in Brooklyn, I had rebranded my blog and launched it back in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was great. And then life happened. I started working again. And I kind of didn't have the time to do it. That being said, what I did do, and you'll find this on my Instagram, I microblog. So I'll have like lengthy ass captions, but they're telling you a story. So everything I write is with a purpose. I'm currently working on another rebrand of Unicorn and BK, hoping to relaunch that the middle of February. And also with regards to 2020, me walking away from science, I am full steam ahead working towards getting into television writing. I landed a dope mentorship with a showrunner who's done some amazing work with Netflix and with HBO, and he's guiding me along the way. So this year has just been really gracious to me, man. 2021 is going to be full of dope opportunities, me writing consistently. You can look out for Unicorn and BK, new articles. I'm working on them now, but aesthetically, they won't be ready until like mid-February.
Okay. So this has been the year of planting. This is
A hundred
really
percent.
the right seeds have actual what's the word? I wasn't gonna say actually. I don't know what the fuck word I was going for, but the right seeds have actualized themselves, if you will. Like the right seeds for planting have been manifested in 2020
100%.
between relationships, work, creative
Purpose.
endeavors. Yeah, it's like it's given itself the space to really just, hi, here's a seed, plant me.
That's it.
And now
And
that you've got all your seeds, yeah,
I was gonna say, I
it's
just been way more receptive. Like with not being
yes,
able to go out, I'm just hella receptive. Like, oh,
good point.
try that word.
You're in and not distracted by, life and the world around us, because I don't know about you or anybody else. I'm very easily distracted. Oh,
We
it's bright and
we
pretty.
are tribe, shiny ball syndrome tribe. Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking
Shiny
at the
ball, shiny
moon
ball.
right here, looking at me through my window, and I'm like, I see you, full moon in Cancer. How we feeling today? I should put some mason jars outside. My landlord actually asked me one time. I spoke to him. He was just like, so every once in a while, there's just like some jars of water on the front. So I was like, it's moon water, brother. Don't worry about it. Full moon, you gotta manifest that
And the
water.
brains,
You know,
bruh.
make some coffee with it. You know what I mean? Plant. Water my babies, my green babies
Okay.
out here,
Get into the
moon
plant
water.
babies.
And he was just like, okay. And I'm just like, don't worry about it, bro. It's safe. You ain't gonna nothing gonna happen to you, right? So Marissa, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you for having me, D.
Girl, this was long overdue. I don't know why for
Beyond.
the longest I felt like we had, because we have our conversations anyway. So I
Yep.
don't know why I felt like there was an episode. Like I absolutely had to bring my travel inspiration on the podcast, because you were absolutely a seed that was planted and that has brought me to where I am now. So again, I thank you. I thank you. Like you, thank you, drummers. Ashe.
Back at you, love. Back at you.
Where can the people find you? Where can we find Unicorn in Brooklyn? Where can we find Penny Pens? Where
Yes.
can we find? Because remember, you know what it was? I think it was because we had remember when I had the conversations on the couch
Yes.
when I was doing. Thank you, lover.
I remember.
Thank you. Another drink. This whole quarantining together has been incredible.
Been
So
something.
remember, we had the conversation on the couch when I was doing Miss Vixen, back when I was Miss Vixen.
Yes.
I feel like that's probably where I felt like my mind was going in terms of, yeah, we've done an episode together. Not a traveling shit though.
Not traveling shit.
Not the real deal. The real,
Okay.
This is the real shit right here. This like,
okay.
This is it. This is my baby here.
Word.
So where can the people find you and your baby?
Absolutely. So like I said, I'm rebranding unicorninbk.com. Right now the site is up. No new material, but if you want to go there and catch up, by all means do so. Aesthetically, it may move a bit slow. There may be some things that are there that will not be there in a few weeks, but you can still check out my work there. But I would say definitely the main thing right now is my Instagram, unicorninbk. I microblog, I share travel stories, I share stories about dating, about love, about life, just relatable shit.
Yeah. And you do it in quite the familiar and easily receptive voice. Like I feel like again, we're tribe. If you fuck with the podcast, you're gonna fuck with Marissa. Like it's gonna connect.
Period.
It's just gonna work. Like it's one of those things. Is like, oh, I get it. When you get there, it'll just be like, okay, yeah, like this makes sense.
Yes.
So highly recommend. 12 out of 10. Go for it. It's there. It's internet. It's free. Get it while it's free. Okay.
Okay. Get into it.
Tap into our free little offerings. Not even little. Our big offerings that we have out here, because my daddy always says this. This is my ringtone. Hold on a second, Daddy. You something about you on Tuesdays. I love you. I'm recording. Every day I call you, I love you. I love you too, Daddy. I'll talk to you in a minute. I'll call you back, okay? You're now on the podcast, so make sure you watch this. Okay, bye. I should have put him on speaker. He's like, sorry.
As I was playing with the lighting.
So we out here giving up the gifts. You know what I mean? Get into it. Have a great experience with the Unicorn in Brooklyn website as it is now, so that you guys can see what motivated me to travel. So get over there now and really I guess, garner an appreciation for the stories and the inspiration that I was able to find. Because obviously, if you're here listening to the podcast, I can guarantee you that it will resonate to some degree with you. So is there anything else you want to leave the people with?
Um, I just want to say that, take time. In 2020, it's been really eye opening for a lot of folks. Take time to like keep the jewels and the gems that you've been able to collect and bring it into 2021. Like we've all survived. Nothing normal about this shit at all. I don't
Right.
care how many times they say the new normal. Give yourself grace. Be gentle with yourself and keep on manifesting what you want, but also do the fucking work, yo.
Yeah. The work is important. But is it faith without works is dead?
Period.
That's what you paid for Catholic school for. They always talk hot shit about my saging and my crystals. They're like, all this money I spent on Catholic school and you out here with altars. And I'm like, yep. Guess what?
But it works though.
I still know the words to Ave Maria, folks. I got you on that. And faith without works is dead. I think that's what it is.
I think I'm going to go with that because I don't adhere to any religion. So I'm going with spirituality on that. But that sounds about right from that bullshit ass Christianity I grew up being.
Hello, Catholic school. And I was just like, but the wafer though, that's real. And you trying to tell me critical things. So we're going to sit here and do critical thinking. But now you're telling me this wafer is a body. And it ain't connect for me either. It ain't connect for me either. But what I will say is I appreciate what it does for those who do believe. I love that religion and faith, especially when my grandfather passed, was a real consolation for my grandmother and for my mom. Like I see how religion really does comfort and carry people through really trying times. And for that, I got nothing but love and respect for it. It ain't for me.
Word.
It doesn't do that for me. But I do love to see that when people use it appropriately and not to demonize or, rationalize harm to others. Girl, that's a whole other conversation. But so
we got to connect offline and maybe do an episode in 2021.
There we go. There it is. And it shall be.
It's out
there. Guys, thank you for listening. Don't forget unicornandbk.com, travelandshippodcast.com. Check out the websites, Travel and Ship merch. There's the free download that you could do for your solo travel planning needs or just planning a trip in general needs. You know what? Maybe I should just change that. I don't know. I'll give it some thought. But if you need help planning a trip, I got you covered, my guys. It's there, free for the downloads. I got another drink. The kid's about to be hungry. And so just remember, travel is more than vacation. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.